So reading Romans in context, in some ways, it just helps you, instead of going through the weeds and trying to figure out all the minor details, it helps you focus on the main idea of the text. But also, importantly, the questions that Paul was answering to his contemporaries, people, he was having a theological discussion with them. Paul was explaining his understanding of what Christ has done and the Holy Spirit is doing in the church to his Jewish contemporaries. And so see how Paul nuanced that discussion, how he agreed with some people and then disagreed with other people in his Jewish framework, will help us see how we can frame our understanding and communication of the gospel to people in agreement and disagreement and the nuance there as well. Paul is a Jew, and so he's talking about issues that other Jews at that time would talk about. And so helping, as we go through, we have different authors that are experts in those areas talk about how Paul is either contrasting with other Jews or at the same time agreeing with Jews or agreeing with some views against other Jews in that sense. And so it's just helping to bring out the depth of meaning and the flavor and the color of the meaning. Most things that talk about Romans focus just on the text, or maybe Romans, as Paul talked about, engages the Old Testament. And so what this does is it doesn't ignore the Old Testament, obviously doesn't ignore the text itself, but what it does is allows us to see how Judaism progressed from the Old Testament until Paul's modern day. And so how Paul understood Judaism and Christianity, his experience of Christianity, in light of other Jewish experiences of the Old Testament and Jewish faith. So what we're doing is helping undergraduates, interested pastors, and seminary students understand where academic theology is. And so it's written in a way that is 2,500 words, and so just 4 or 5 pages of text. And so it's very accessible to students and readers. So I've used these essays that we have from reading Romans in context in my teaching setting. So I teach both master's and undergraduate students. What I try to do is help promote active learning in the classroom. And so it's not just about them reading and me lecturing about the material, but the students actually going back and reading these primary texts themselves. And so they're reading Romans, but they're also reading, say, a section out of Philo or out of Josephus or some other text, and replicate their own comparison. And so maybe these other Jewish texts agree or disagree with the Jewish text that Paul is talking about. And so then students can go and take that further and do their own writing and research that supplements and even takes the active learning further, so that they're engaged in the process of reading text and understanding how these things fit together.